Decoded.
Welcome, everyone, to Book Decoded. Today, we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Specifically, how AI is beginning to understand human conversations. Like
Yeah.
all the crazy little things we do when we talk to each other.
Sounds fun.
It is. It really is. And to help us unpack all of this, we're going to be looking at a book by Yair Neuman,
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
AI for Understanding Human Conversations.
Catchy title.
It is, right? Really gets to the heart of what we're diving into today.
Definitely.
So the book starts off by acknowledging just how hard it is to actually understand conversations. Like we do it all the time without even thinking about it.
Right, like breathing almost.
Yeah, but when you actually try to break it down, it gets complicated really fast.
For sure.
So what is it about human conversations that makes them such a challenge to decode?
Well, first off, you have to consider all the different layers involved.
Oh, it's layers.
Yeah, like you've got the words themselves, obviously, but then you've got the social context,
Yeah.
like where the conversation is happening, who's talking to who, the history between those people, all their individual perspectives, even subconscious biases they might have.
Wow. So it's like way more than just the words.
Exactly. It's like a whole performance.
I like that, a performance. And then on top of all that, Neuman points out that we're not just dealing with the literal meaning of language,
Right.
but all these unwritten rules of how we interact.
Like when it's your turn to talk.
Yeah, and how topics change.
And all the little cultural cues that we pick up on without even realizing it.
It's a wonder we ever understand each other at all.
It really is.
So given all that, how can a machine even begin to understand human conversation?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the book argues that we need to use AI for this,
Interesting.
specifically these large language models, or LLMs.
Okay, so what are LLMs exactly?
Well, they're basically algorithms that can process and generate human language, but they're incredibly sophisticated. Like, they can learn from massive amounts of text data and make connections that we humans might miss.
So they're not just like those chatbots that give you canned responses.
No, not at all. These are way more advanced.
Got it. So how do these LLMs actually help us understand conversations?
Well, one key concept is framing.
Framing.
Yeah, Neuman uses this great example of a movie scene in a diner.
Okay.
Just the description of people munching bacon tells us a lot.
I guess so.
Like, it sets the scene right. It tells us it's a casual setting, maybe early morning.
And that they're enjoying themselves.
Right, exactly. We're already building a picture in our minds based on that one detail.
Fascinating.
And that's framing. It's how we use our background knowledge to create these mental models that help us make sense of what's going on.
It's like we're constantly filling in the blanks.
Exactly. And LLMs can do that too.
Really?
Neumann even got ChatGPT to describe the vibe of a coffee shop, and it nailed it.
Wow. So they can capture that kind of subtle understanding.
They're getting better at it all the time.
So framing is important for understanding the overall context of a conversation.
Right.
But what about the individual things that people say?
Well, that's where speech acts come in.
Speech acts, what are those?
Basically, it's the idea that when we say something, we're not just conveying information.
Okay.
We're also doing something with our words,
Doing something.
like making a statement, giving a command, expressing an opinion, or making a concession.
I never thought of it like that.
And identifying those speech acts can help us understand the speaker's intention.
Give me an example.
Sure, like saying, "I wish you were here now," could be a genuine expression of longing, or just a polite way to end a message.
Ah, I see, the context matter.
Exactly. And that's where framing and speech acts work together.
Okay, so we've got framing for the big picture and speech acts for the individual utterances.
And LLMs can help us analyze both of those things.
That's pretty impressive.
It is, but it's just the tip of the iceberg.
There's more.
Oh yeah, much more.
What else can these LLMs do?
One of the coolest things is how they represent the meaning of words
How do they do that?
through these things called embeddings.
Embeddings. Okay, this sounds complicated.
It's actually pretty simple. Imagine you're trying to describe a word,
Okay.
but instead of using a dictionary definition, you look at what other words it tends to appear with.
Like what words are its friends?
Exactly. So ice cream might be friends with cone, chocolate, vanilla.
And flavor might be friends with sweet, nutty, smoky.
Precisely. And based on those friendships, each word gets assigned a unique numerical code.
Like a secret code based on its social circle.
Exactly. And that's an embedding. It's a way of representing the meaning of a word based on its context.
So it's not just about the word itself, but also about the company it keeps.
Right. And the really cool thing is that these embeddings can be fine-tuned based on the words that are right next to them.
So the meaning can change depending on the surrounding context.
Exactly. It's like a chameleon adapting to its environment.
That makes sense.
And LLMs are really good. They have this thing called an attention mechanism.
An attention mechanism.
Yeah, it's like a spotlight that allows the model to focus on the most important words in a sentence when figuring out the meaning of a particular word.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure, like in the phrase, my favorite ice cream flavor is, the presence of ice cream will highlight those aspects of flavor that are related to ice cream.
So the model will be more likely to guess chocolate or vanilla.
Exactly. But if you change ice cream to steak, the spotlight shifts.
And suddenly smoky or tender become more important.
Precisely. It's amazing how these models can capture that sensitivity to context.
It really is.
And they're only getting better. Neuman points out that a recent version of GPT performed almost as well as a human in those flavor examples.
Wow, so they're catching up to us.
They are, but it's important to remember that they're still just machines.
What do you mean?
Well, they're incredibly powerful at recognizing patterns and making predictions, but they don't have the same depth of understanding that we humans do.
So they can analyze the surface level, but not necessarily the deeper meaning?
That's one way to put it.
Does Neuman address that in the book?
He does. He talks about this potential gap between the people who build AI systems and the experts who study human behavior.
Like a clash of cultures.
Exactly. The AI folks might be super focused on the technology, but they might not fully grasp the nuances of human communication.
And the experts might be skeptical of what AI can actually do.
Right, and Neuman really emphasizes the need to bridge that gap.
By bringing those two perspectives together.
Exactly, and that's what he tries to do in the book.
How so?
Well, he combines these conceptual explanations of how AI works with detailed analyses of real conversations, often using examples from movies.
Movies, that's interesting.
He argues that they provide these rich and engaging examples of human interaction,
I could see that.
and he analyzes them in a really meticulous way.
Like he's really getting into the weeds.
He is, but he does it to show how LLMs can uncover these subtle nuances.
I appreciate that kind of thoroughness.
Me too. It's what makes the book so compelling.
So to recap, conversations are complex, context is key, and LLMs are giving us powerful new tools for analysis.
That's a good summary.
But that's just the beginning, right?
Right. Neuman goes on to explore even more advanced techniques.
Like what?
Well, one example is context-enriched embeddings.
Context-enriched embeddings.
But it's basically a way of adding more information to those embeddings we talked about earlier.
So instead of just representing the meaning of a word?
You also include information about the specific situation, the speaker's intention, and even broader themes that are relevant to the conversation.
That sounds really powerful.
It is. Neuman uses this example of a tense exchange between U.S. and Chinese officials.
Okay.
And he shows how, by enriching the embeddings, he can capture those underlying power dynamics and worldviews.
So it's not just about what they're saying, but also about the unspoken context.
Right. And he even brings in tools from psychology, like the Riverside Situational Cue sort, or RSQ.
Yeah, RSQ, what's that?
It's a framework that psychologists use to describe social situations. And Neuman uses it to help the AI understand the broader social environment in which the conversation is taking place.
Fascinating. So he's really stacking these layers of context.
He is, and it allows for a much deeper analysis of the conversation.
I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
Me too. It's really impressive.
So what else does he do with these context-enriched embeddings?
Well, one interesting thing is he uses them to measure differences in perspective.
Differences in perspective, how do you measure that?
He uses a concept called vector projection divergence, or VPD.
Vector projection divergence. Okay, you're losing me a little bit.
Think of it like this. Each person's viewpoint is represented by an arrow.
Okay, I can visualize that.
And VPD basically measures the angle between those arrows.
So a big angle means very different perspectives.
Exactly. And by applying VPD to these enriched embeddings, Neuman can quantify how much one speaker's viewpoint differs from another's.
That's really cool, actually, putting a number on those differences.
It is, and he even uses a fun example with Homer and Marge Simpson to illustrate it.
Homer and Marge. Now you've got my attention.
He shows how their perceptions of each other differ in terms of things like affection, intellect, and behavior.
And VPD allows him to measure those differences.
Precisely. It's a great way to make this abstract concept more relatable.
I like it. So we've got context-enriched embeddings and VPD. What other tricks does Neuman have up his sleeve?
Well, he also talks about explicitly framing conversations for LLMs.
What does that mean?
Well, it's based on the work of sociologist Irving Goffman.
Okay.
who developed this theory of frame analysis.
Frame analysis, what's that all about?
Basically, it's how people make sense of their experiences in social interactions.
Okay.
Like what kind of situation they're in, what roles they're playing, what the rules are.
Interesting. So it's like a set of expectations that guide our behavior.
Exactly. And Neuman argues that LLMs can benefit from this kind of framing.
How so?
Well, by providing the model with information about the relevant frames, you can help it to better understand the nuances of the conversation.
Like giving it a cheat sheet.
Kind of, and he uses a scene from Ingmar Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage to illustrate this.
That's a pretty intense movie.
It is, and it's a great example of how these frames can shape our understanding.
So how does Neuman use LLMs to analyze this scene?
Well, he does it in a step-by-step way. First, he asks the model to identify the overall mood or atmosphere.
Okay.
Then he asks it to identify the specific speech acts being used. And finally, he asks it to analyze the conversation in terms of these frames.
And the model is able to do all of that.
It is, and it actually does a pretty good job.
That's impressive.
It is, but it's important to note that the human expert is still guiding the process.
So it's not just about the AI doing everything on its own.
Right, it's more of a collaboration between the human and the machine.
I like that idea.
Me too, is what Neuman calls augmented intelligence.
Augmented intelligence, that's a good way to put it. Okay, so we've talked about framing and how it can help LLMs understand conversations.
Right.
What else does Neuman cover in the book?
Well, he also talks about the role of memory in conversations.
Memory, what does that have to do with anything?
Well, think about it when we're talking to someone. We're not just drawing on the words that are being said in the moment.
Okay.
We're also drawing on our past experiences and shared history.
Ah, I see our memories shape how we interpret things.
Exactly. And Neuman explores how LLMs can be used to analyze which memories are brought up and why.
Give me an example.
Sure, like imagine you're having a conversation with your partner,
Okay.
and one of you brings up a fond memory from your early days together. That memory can set a specific frame for the current conversation.
Like maybe it emphasizes themes of love and stability.
Right, or maybe it highlights a time when you were both more carefree and spontaneous.
Interesting. So the memory isn't just a random thing, it's serving a purpose in the conversation.
Exactly, and by prompting the model to identify the underlying speech act, when a memory is evoked, Neuman can infer the speaker's intention.
Like, are they trying to establish common ground, reinforce their social identity, or maybe even subtly negotiate power?
Precisely. It's fascinating how memories can be used strategically in conversations.
It is. And it's something I'm definitely going to pay more attention to now.
You too.
So we've talked about framing speech acts, embeddings, context enrichment, VPD, and memory. Is there anything else we need to know about how AI is understanding conversations?
Well, Neumann also explores the often unpredictable and nonlinear nature of conversations.
Meaning they don't always follow a logical path.
Right, exactly. They can jump around, change direction, and take sudden turns.
That sounds like most of my conversations.
And to analyze these shifts and turns, Neumann uses a sliding window approach.
A sliding window approach. What's that?
Imagine you're taking a small snapshot of the conversation,
Okay.
analyzing it,
Okay.
and then sliding that window forward in time to see how things evolve.
So you're breaking the conversation down into these little chunks.
Exactly, and by looking at how those chunks change over time, you can track shifts in the mood, the speech acts being used, the frames, and the footing.
So you can see those critical points where the conversation takes a turn.
Right, and Neumann uses an example from No Country for Old Men to illustrate this.
That's a pretty intense movie, too.
It is, and the sliding window approach really highlights those moments of tension and suspense.
Like when the hitman flips a coin to decide the gas station owner's fate?
Exactly. It's a great example of how conversations can be unpredictable and even dangerous.
Okay, so we've got sliding windows for analyzing those shifts in conversations. What else is there?
Well, another important aspect is topic shifts.
Topic shifts. We do that all the time.
We do, and Neumann uses a scene from Pulp Fiction to analyze how and why these shifts occur.
Oh, that scene with Jules and Brett in the apartment?
The one and only.
What does he find?
Well, he identifies several key reasons for topic shifts.
Like what?
Well, they could be triggered by simple cognitive associations.
Like one word reminding you of another?
Exactly. Or they can be caused by external triggers in the environment.
Like a sudden noise.
Right. Or they can be driven by social dynamics like power plays.
So someone might change the topic to assert dominance?
Precisely. Or they might do it to redirect the conversation away from something they don't want to talk about.
That's interesting. It's like a way of controlling the flow of information.
Exactly. And in the case of Jules, and Brett Neuman argues that Jules is using topic shifts to maintain control and intimidate Brett.
It's all part of his plan.
Right. And the AI analysis helps to reveal those subtle strategies.
That's pretty cool.
It is, and it shows how even seemingly random topic shifts can be quite deliberate.
So we've talked about framing, speech acts, embeddings, context enrichment, VPD memory sliding windows, and topic shifts.
And we're almost done.
Almost. There's more.
Just one last thing. Neuman also explores how AI can help us understand the people having the conversations.
Like their personalities.
Exactly. He argues that understanding someone's personality is crucial for accurately interpreting their conversational behavior.
Makes sense.
And he shows how LLMs can be used to analyze personality traits based on what people say and how they say it.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. He revisits scenes from a marriage and uses LLMs to analyze Marianne and Johan's personalities.
Okay.
He finds that Marianne tends to be more dependent and focused on her own feelings, while Johan is more self-assured and independent.
Interesting. So the AI is able to pick up on those subtle differences in their communication styles.
It is, and it can even identify potential tendencies towards certain behaviors.
Like what?
Well, in the case of Johan, Neumann suggests that his communication style might indicate a tendency towards emotional detachment.
That's pretty insightful.
It is, and it shows how AI can go beyond just analyzing the words themselves.
To actually understand the people behind them.
Exactly. It's like having a virtual therapist.
Maybe we should all get one.
Maybe we should.
Okay, so to wrap things up, Neuman's book, AI for Understanding Human Conversations, presents a really fascinating and thought-provoking look at how AI is transforming the way we study and understand communication. It's full of insights about the complexity of human interaction, and it shows how AI can be a powerful tool for uncovering those hidden layers of meaning.
And it's just the beginning.
I know it's exciting to think about where this technology is headed.
Definitely.
So what are your biggest takeaways from the book?
Well, for me, it's the idea that conversations are way more complex than we often realize, and that AI can help us to appreciate that complexity.
I agree. It's like we're seeing conversations through a new lens.
Exactly. And I also think it's important to remember that AI is not here to replace human understanding.
Right. It's more about augmenting it.
Exactly. And that collaboration between humans and machines is what's going to lead to the most interesting discoveries.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. But I hope this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for the power of language and the potential of AI to help us understand it better.
Me too.
If you're interested in learning more about this topic, I highly recommend checking out Yair Neuman's book.
Definitely a good read.
Until next time, keep those conversations flowing and your minds open to the possibilities.